Welcome, everyone. Dr. Thor here. Get ready for Gnosis. Now, Gnosis means truth. And of course, I've been a researcher for 55 years and I'm seeking truth. Living in a delusion, believing in comic book gods and in science and in pharmaceuticals, business destructions, is not truth. Plain and simple. So we have to keep that in mind of what we are seeking here. And anybody that does anything should be approaching it from seeking truth, because that's really what it's all about. Everything else is a delusion. So living in a fantasy, no matter what that fantasy is not going to prove anything. But people love to do that. They love to live in a comic book world because it answers their questions and gives them a daddy and mommy to believe in, which are called gods. This, of course, takes the responsibility off of you. And you just live in a fantasy world. Well, this world is just about had it. It's polluted to the tops. People are killing each other all the time, which is nothing new. So this is the reality we live in. And if you want to live in the delusional world, that's what we are. That is your problem, and you're not going to get anywhere. But it's safe. Go, have your white picket fence, your little house, your dog, and go to church on Sunday and think the world is perfect. Of course, this is the nonsense that we run into that really causes problems here. To seek traditional methods that have failed is a waste of time. Science has done nothing. We have two major concerns in life, and that is the fact of is staying well. If you are sick, you achieve nothing. Science has done nothing. They can't even cure dandruff and acne. The other thing that we need to work as a society is to have clean energy. We do have this to a degree, but your scientists are not out there pushing it. So it isn't out there. It's fuel. And of course, since there's the gossip, which really is a lie, that we're running out of oil, everything's going to nuclear power. That's our answer. And that's the answer of a stooge. You're a dumb idiot to produce energy from something that is so toxic and you can't get rid of the waste, which will be enormous in the coming years as everybody goes back to nuclear power to solve their problems. We have plenty of natural gas. There are plenty of other things, but they won't do it. We can thank science for that, because scientists aren't standing up and screaming about this. They're doing nothing. As a matter of fact, they are the ones who have empowered society with horrible, deadly weapons to kill everyone. So we have to keep that in mind. What is the truth of anything? Now, there isn't a truth that's my truth or your truth. There is truth and only truth. Now, if you want to believe in comic book gods and you think there's some truths in that, well, that's up to you. But that's not truth. That's your truth. Truth is universal. So we have to find out what the truth is. Now, the big issue here with martial artists and this whole issue of, I don't know if it's no-touch knockouts or in general, the use of what are called meridian and power points. And do these have any basis? Well, first of all, they do. This goes back to how the human body works. It amazes me that martial artists don't know anything about how the body works. It's punching and kicking. It has to do with muscles. Well, your body is a complicated structure, and I don't think they understand how the human body works at all. And I don't think they understand the many aspects of this. And of course, there's the Western look at it as the physicalness, but it's still a physicalness. You are kind of a chemical battery. There's a lot more going on, but if you want to go with the West, you're a chemical battery, and you shoot off. Your brain is constantly shooting off these electrical charges, kind of like little lightning. This is what keeps you functioning. When this lightning stops or you have a seizure, and this is what epileptics go through, so we've all heard of this. You probably don't know what happens. The lights go out. You fall to the ground, and you shake because your body's trying to kick in those lightning bolts again. Does a martial arts know this? I don't think so. As I said, I find the entire world to be bogus idiots. But martial artists are low-level bottom feeders as far as I'm concerned. I've never known one that wasn't a coward or wanted to go out and hurt people. Nobody is doing this for higher level consciousness or physical fitness or anything else. They're there for a particular reason, and that's it. And in a lot of ways, martial arts is a complete and total joke and dangerous for anybody to really learn if they think they're going to protect themselves with it. And of course, martial arts teachers don't teach really multiple attacks, what's going on. And of course, they don't want to teach weapons. Now, stand there with 4 guys in front of you, right? Huh, honey? And a 110-pound little woman. Yeah. It's ridiculous and it's dangerous. But this gives people false confidence, and if they ever do run into anything, they'll find out how much those martial arts help them when they're in the hospital or in the ground. So I'm not a big fan of it at all. It's outdated everything else that has to go with martial arts. I see the uses of it are minimal when people should be learning how to use whatever legal weapons are in their place, country, etc. That's why people have that. The reason why we don't have giant armies of martial artists going out and punching each other is because it doesn't kill people. That's why we have armies full of weapons. So this goes back to ancient times as well. This is when a lot of Chinese peasants were attacked, and they learned how to use their gardening, their farming supplies to defend themselves and also to overcome superior people with skills. So this is all the reality of it. And the Mongols almost took over the world because of a little thing called the compound bow. So they're able, the vicious scum they were, on horseback, who just wanted to rob and rape what other people's work was, of course, able to do this with the compound bow, which is what annihilated the West for a while until, of course, the Romans, who lost in a big battle, made their own and then went and killed all of those Mongols, the big heroes they were. But the bottom line here is that we have to understand, what does all this mean? So the fact is that there's energy systems based in 3,000-year-old technologies that are out there, is proven, especially if you're a martial artist who wants to bow down to your dojo, your dumjos, to the little master. When you come in, you have to bow. Well, if you're going to respect his Oriental tradition, you better respect the reality of all the energy systems. So this is all part of understanding the entire process that is going on. So this is nothing new. And if you're just going to kick and punch, well, as I said, it's a little bit ridiculous. A kick and punch a .45 bullet. So the whole idea is that this is just absurdity at its highest level. So the whole idea is, obviously the body works in many ways. So if you're able to, and we can use the Western understanding of interrupting the firing of those lightning bolts in the head there, or at least diminish that, it means your functioning is virtually nothing, and you will fall to the ground, as I have found in my own family of people who had epileptic problems where the actual turns off. The lights go out and you slam to the ground. Simple as that. And, by the way, nobody touches you. It happens naturally. Nobody even thinks about it. Nobody's even psychically projecting. You get the seizure, and boom, bang, you're out. Like the lights are off and you remember nothing. So, if you're going to claim that you're a martial artist, you're using physicality, and you're just going to be involved in punching and kicking, well, you are really a dummy. You're a low-level person, which, of course, is most of the world. Now, the God-held Bruce Lee, with his 1-inch punch, was using chi energy, or whatever you want to call it, which is part of psychic energy, to actually generate a huge amount of energy without using your body alone. So the whole idea. And he didn't get into a lot of this because I think there was a credibility problem. But don't think that he wasn't using it all the time in his techniques. And anybody who's able to lightly touch you or hit you to a level that is going beyond muscle comparisons is using these methods, which have been used for thousands of years. Now, one of the problems is good old George Dillman, who is quite an accomplished martial artist, by the way. He's in the Hall of Fame. He's well known. He's brushed shoulders with Muhammad Ali, Chuck Norris, Bruce Lee, etc. So he was there when all these people were coming. He's in his 80s now. And he should be proven before he dies one way or another. Now, the problem with him is that, and of course, I've covered this and how to do proper research, but there's a lot to cover here, and this will probably be videos here to cover everything. But I just finished reading his biography here, which is called Prometheus, the George Dillman story. Written by George Dillman with his students. This is a strange book. I guess we could call it just as strange as George himself. Now, George himself really isn't that strange. He's a common guy, came up common way. He was, I guess, in the reserves as a non-commissioned officer. When there were problems in the 60s, when they're having riots and so forth, he was given a commission by the military. So I don't know if that's good or bad. I'm not a big fan of the military, but the military thought that he was a good enough soldier that he should be given a officer statement, an officer rank. But as I said, he's learned this. He's met all the people. He is a very accomplished physical martial artist. Now, he claims the reason why he's been staying in these pressure points areas is because it always has kind of come back to him. He's always been a part of his kind of destiny. And every time that he tries to move away from it, what happens is that he has problems doing that, or that things come up because all the Asian teachers are talking about this. Now, there is a problem with Asians, to use generalities. They love mysticism. We can look at the horrible Chinese kung fu movies, which are just fighting from one point to the end and all the other stuff that goes with that. But they love their personal mysticism as well. And if you know anything about that, but don't they all? I mean, really. What about the Western world's ridiculous virgin births? Yeah, that happens all the time. Raising from the dead. Dead people on sticks that are going to help you in the future. I mean, all of this stuff. But you got to remember how mystical these Chinese, in particular, people are. This was brought to an obscene level during I believe it was the Boxer Rebellion, or sometime close to that. And the entire Chinese got together and they put together ghost warriors. I forget the technical term of all this stuff. So, don't hold me to anything. I do a lot of research and everything is kind of a mixed bag. But the important part is there. So they all went to these temples and they trained. Because you have to know the history of China. China's been invaded for all their history. There's a whole bunch of Western people there, and they had all their armies there, pretty much all the people from the West, including the United States. And, of course, the Brits fed the Chinese all sorts of opium so that the entire society would be brought down because of the sheer numbers of it. It's amazing how little the Chinese have been able to do with their so massive amount of people. They haven't really been able to fight well. They even set up a fort one time when the British were invading with their Indian troops from India. They couldn't turn their cannons in one direction. Chinese engineering, even though the Chinese invented just about everything. So the Chinese have invented everything, and the Egyptians. From movable type to you name it, the Chinese probably did it first. And if they didn't, it was the Egyptians. It's just a known fact. Pretty much nobody else has done anything. So that's where everything comes from. So it's, but of course, they are still into this mystical. So they did all this stuff and then they convinced everybody, and I don't know how they tested it, that if you got to this particular state, you could, bullets would not affect you. Pretty good stuff to learn, huh? Except there was a side effect. Bullets did affect you, and they died by the hundreds, if not thousands, when they came against the troops. So the whole idea is, it just shows you that even in a life and death situation, and who was teaching these people these things? Well, these were the temple leaders, the martial arts masters. And what can we say? Well, what the F is wrong with them? And why would people believe this? But this is an old, long story. So how do we? So we have just found out. Truth is that this system, not all systems, we don't know, didn't stop bullets. So that was soon given up, and back to egg rolls and rice. So the whole idea is that this is the kind of things that happens. Now, as I said, George Dillman is in the Black Belt Hall of Fame. He's well recognized. Everybody considers him to be he won lots of tournaments and everything else. A very accomplished martial artist. Now, what's interesting is I have yet to find any of these people out there that claim they have these extreme abilities. They're not supernatural. They're extreme abilities, which certain people can develop. We've seen this in many areas. And again, it's been proven, but not by dumb bunkers and the bottom feeders that are out there in general. These people have an agenda and they're paid off. If you don't believe that and you don't understand how the world works, well, I pity you, foo. So the bottom line is that's how the world works. So I've never found any martial artist that has done these kind of things that is a fraud at all. They're all very accomplished. I find, like most people in this world, and martial artists in particular, have a very low moral capacity. They're really kind of scummy people. It's just as simple as that. But who isn't? You think your doctor's good as he murders people on the operating table for organized crime, or just doesn't give a damn? Well, I need a new car. You need an operation. So, this is what they do. So you think that's anything? Or your lawyers, because 50% of the lawyers lose. Are they helping everybody? Well, like everything else, there's good and bad in everything. So if we want to look at everything that we believe in and everything else, and all of society is a failure. It's nonsense. So you got to seek truth. We got to find out what's out there because we are in desperate situations and need to get these things taken care of properly. So that we can move the world on in consciousness. And that's not about looking at failed science, which has given us nothing. Plain and simple. What we've gotten is a little bit of engineering from, and engineers are not scientists. So the whole idea is, yeah, we can build giant buildings and bridges and they tend not to fall down unless you blow them up. Like in 9/11. So the whole idea is that, yes, that's engineering and you can't really mess up. You can't say, well, it's built on fairy dust and it'll stay up, because it won't. So engineers are kept in line because it'll fall down. It breaks. And of course, you got to remember a lot of the stuff that we make right now is pretty crappy. And this is for a lot of rings. But there's a lot of very bad engineering out there going on. Almost in anything. I mean, it's just appalling when you see some of that stuff. I think it was was it the Pontiac Vega or something that came out? This was one of the first small cars, which is, I don't know the dates of it. It was the 80s or late 70s. And to change the oil, you had to take one of the tires off to get to the change. Good engineering. We need more guys like that. Maybe we have to remove the engine to take the oil out next time. Wouldn't that be great? You learned that in Harvard? So the whole idea is these are the kind of things that are out there. So getting back to George here, he's certainly a warrior type. He's been directly involved before he got into martial arts of getting into physical combat in the reserves. And I'm not sure I don't know if there's military history here or not, but he was attacked during these civil disruptions as a person there and was promoted from a sergeant to an officer without going through officer candidate school. So, everybody that knows him in his physical reality, now personally, he comes off as kind of a dumb guy. He tries to explain things. He's a horrible teacher. He doesn't express himself well. He doesn't come off well. He's kind of a goofy looking guy. He's pretty tiny as well. I think he was shorter than Bruce Lee. I think he was 5'7" or whatever it was. So he's a small little guy. And, the other problem is now that he's in his 80s, and I know how long, is he's very typical of what I call the what martial artists. And I see this with so many of them, including buddies and pals that we all know, Steven Seagal, who apparently likes to eat entire cows in one setting. But the point is all these people are fat, and they have huge bellies, which is a known, this is a problem. They have pancreas and liver problems. So this is what is causing these, quote, beer bellies. So you drink beer, your beer cannot be processed by the liver properly. It's pushed out in fat. It's just as simple as that. Because it's a real crap product, especially if you drink a lot of it. And of course, it depends on your own physical system as well. So if you're going to have a giant belly like that, and it looks like Dillman did have some cosmetic surgery done as well. He should have been went on a diet. We have problems here. And of course, Steven Skull likes to say that he knows Chinese medicine and claims that he has a thyroid problem, which does make you fat and it's hard to lose weight. I mean, this is a real thing. Most people have thyroid problems. So it's pandemic. But do something about it, master. So the whole idea is that these are the kind of things that we look at that we have to be very cognizant of. So he looks ridiculous there. Now, I've watched probably 30 hours of his videos. They're all on YouTube where he has his training courses on there where he shows what he's doing. And of course, it's always good to get books and read them. But this, I wanted to get his background. So he's well noted. This book is, as I said, written by many people. I think his wife even comes on and says, he's a good dude. And his kids and other people he knows. None of them seem to be famous people, which I find interesting. So he's not getting Chuck Norris. He's not getting that old codger. I'm sure, I don't know what Chuck Norris believes or not. He's a radical born-again Christian. And while he's a nice guy, I think he's as dumb as a rock. And all the other people there. So he doesn't seem to have, quote, that I know of. I mean, they talk about people's names. I'm not sure if these were noted martial artists or not. They tend not to be, at least nobody we know. And of course, martial artists seem to have a problem. The great Ed Parker, who was known to eat a lot, loved after training, would go out to special restaurants and enjoy and imbibe in all the delights of food and liquor, died at 48. So that's very strange. And he was fat too, but he ate a lot as well. And of course, I don't know what his background is being Hawaiians, but Hawaiians tend to eat a lot of bad food and die young. Even though I don't know if he was part Asian or not. The Asians live long. But he's certainly a guy not to be held up for any great, I don't know how great of a martial artist he was or not. I have problems with people that die young like that because there isn't enough proof. If we had 25 years of Bruce Lee doing all sorts of things, I think that we would see a great deal of knowledge there and prove him one way or another of what level. And we can't do that with Parker Eyes. I'm not sure why everybody loves Ed Parker, but he was the guy that trained everybody in the 70s, 80s. Did it go into the 90s? I remember going into one of his dumjos and talking to a couple of his dumjo students. And I said, well, can I watch practice? No, you can't. We don't let anybody watch. Okay. Yeah. If you go into something like that and go into and be trained by some of these ignorant, all teachers are ignorant stooges. And the bottom line is that you're certainly going to have ignorant stooges that are instructors for someone else. And I don't know how they may have passed, they may know something. But, there's more to martial arts than learning something. If you're not learn how to teach, there's a problem. And I don't think George Dillman knows how to teach well at all. And there's a real problem, and there's a few other people that just don't teach well. One of them is the infamous, or even famous, he was around for 65 years, is Dr. John Latourette. He's a horrible teacher. So the whole idea is that, you got to, good teachers need to know their subject matter, but you also have to understand how to teach. And I don't think George knows how to teach. He talks a lot because, of course, he's on stage, and it seems to me a lot of it is bad. But he does show things in his videos of where you're supposed to do this and that in terms of the pressing. Now, one of the problems with the pressing and stuff is you can't. And some of these spots can be very deadly. There's a whole form of Taekwondo that few people know, which was for the bodyguards for the emperors or kings, whatever they were in that particular country, which is the one-punch knockout. You don't want to be punching somebody 3 times. You want to be able to take somebody down as if possible in one punch. So they would hit particular areas which would turn your clock off. Again, this is noted from hundreds of years of use. So all of these things are based in the energetic system of your body, the flow of energy through your body. which has been basically verified by Western doctors as well, which use different techniques, anything from trigger points to reflexology. These are all based in the and been used for long periods of time and have shown to be effective. And of course, it's all based on acupuncture meridians, which have been around for 3,000 years. I've had acupuncture many times. I know people that had it, and it is very effective to certain levels. And that brings up to what's the certain levels that Dillman is talking about. Now, Dillman has disgraced himself when he was foolish enough, and again, I think that's part of his kind of dumbness, where he brought in National Geographic, who wanted to have him prove his techniques. I've seen this with a few other people as well, where they get caught in this all the time. Are you just stupid? And he did a couple of things in that National Geographic actual, and I'm going to be showing part of it here as we talk about it, that reek of the fact that he can't do what he states he can do. And we'll get into that in a minute. But as I said, it goes through his whole history here. It's kind of a boring book. He talks about it. He was a good friend of Muhammad Ali. I thought he maybe was a bodyguard. I don't hear that in his book. But he did buy Muhammad Ali's training camp where he used to bring people and train them. He bought it, fixed it up because Muhammad Ali obviously got sick. And so he bought it and then put together his own stuff there. And he seems to have been very successful. Have had a pretty, later in his life, it appears that he was making fairly good money, even though initially, like all these bottom feeders, they don't have jobs, they don't have any money, they teach a few students here and there. And it's very difficult to get enough students consistently to make a real income out of martial arts in general. It just depends, but you're going to have, and this is why martial arts instructors charge you for everything now, want you to buy gis from them, want you to sign contracts, because nobody follows through. It's like health clubs. Oh, it's great. Let's work out every day. Day 3, what health club? Well, you bought the membership, and when you have a health club membership, they don't sell it to you for weeks or months. You have to buy a yearly membership. If you don't show up, well, nobody really cares. But martial arts is, if you don't show up and you haven't paid, you're paying monthly, well, these guys don't have any income. So, and of course, it's a whole industry that is kind of odd, where people that have backgrounds and so forth go into their own business and don't have to be qualified. There's also no regulations. I think that martial arts studios, there should be somebody on the premise all the time that is first aid qualified. And people have, which had been noted, there is a lot of criminal and pedophilia going on. People are being abused. People have died from being hit because your instructor, your great teacher. Well, this is complete nonsense. So it's very dangerous, and I've done an entire video on that to have. But there's nobody. They don't know anything. They don't seem to even know the book, which I have featured on my channel, which is the judo revitalization pressure points. You hit people in certain areas, and this will then again stimulate energies going to the brain, lungs, heart, etc. So people who have been knocked out or having problems can be resuscitated. Again, this goes back. And if you're going to be a judo guy and you don't believe in all of judo, well, you're kind of stupid, aren't you? So, and these are very provable because you can use these in everyday life to resuscitate someone, particularly if you're a martial artist. But martial artists who just want to kick and punch, which is one of the biggest turnoffs, the reason why I started martial arts and didn't go through with it, is because I don't need to learn how to kick and punch only. I wanted to learn the energy flows and everything else to go with that, not deal this like I'm going into the Marine Corps. I found that boring, and that's what you're going to get from most teachers. And George Dillman has a lot of that. Now, he claims he's always being brought back. Different teachers show him things. And, of course, this is true. Martial arts kicking and punching is only part of the process. There's kicking and punching where? And it's more than just the crude things. Now, even your boxers know the turn-offs. If you hit somebody in the chin, straight on the chin in particular, that's the off switch. You get hit on the chin, and you're going down. Boxers also know that if you hit somebody in the liver, hard in the liver, you're going to incapacitate them. They're going to walk around like a zombie. Now, these again are facts that have nothing to do with idiot George Dillman. These are facts that are out there that anybody who is researching or is looking for a higher path other than what can I kick and punch um, would do. And everybody knows, especially if you're going to go against other professionals, that kicking and punching people in the right area is going to be more effective. If that's not the case, then just kick them in the foot. Just constantly target the foot. It doesn't matter where you punch them, right? Oh, no, you want to punch him in the chest? Why? Vital organs, you kind of stun the body. Well, what does that have to do with it? Kick him in the foot. Punch him in the foot. Or maybe the arm and the shoulder. Or maybe the hand. So, I mean, when it gets to be a little bit ridiculous to think that there aren't better places to hit people. And it has nothing to do with just the physical impact. It also has to do with what that physical impact does. So when you hit someone in the liver, you're disrupting the flow of energies. This, of course, technically shouldn't do anything if you don't believe in energies. Well, it just shocks the organ, so what? So the whole idea is that is not true, because once you get the reaction from that, you have also. So it doesn't make sense at all. So Dillman outlines here, and he's got buddies and pals. As I said, I didn't recognize any of the martial artists that came forward and said that they had the techniques that he thinks he can do done on them, and they were knocked down by it. Now, nobody said at a distance. Most of them are, and most of his techniques in general that he presses, going to this at a distance stuff and not touching is can be done in terms of weakening someone. And weakening someone is very easy to do, and it's been done by hundreds of different people, not just martial artists, but it's been done by health practitioners and energy practitioners, energy healers in general. It's just common. That's how it works, people, plain and simple. So this has been, and it's not done by people like Dillman, who come off terrible. But the kind of excuses that he made in this, and we're going to go to that film here in a minute. But as I said, I didn't recognize any of these people, but he has people that come forward and say that his stuff works. I don't know what that means either. I don't like people coming forward. You have to have test subjects. His buddies, his people he trains, well, they're not good test subjects. And once he got caught here, and I don't know what in the hell was in his head to bring in National Geographic, and I don't know what he thought he was going to demonstrate. And what's interesting in that, we'll go over that as well, is he didn't demonstrate it. He got number one son to do it, his instructor. Well, that's already a sign of fraud. So I don't know. I don't think he has much faith in his techniques in the particularly non-touch knockouts. Now, you can weaken somebody, and there's people who claim that they can weaken you enough that your knees will buckle and you'll fall by not even touching you, by opening up certain energy areas. As I said, this was demonstrated by Dr. John LaTourette. Which I believe what he's doing there without physically, because I don't believe in anything unless it happens to me personally. I've known too many people who are delusional, and what they are is they're not really delusional. Their money comes from there. So if it even is proven wrong, they will never give it up. There are that, but you don't see a lot of that demonstrated, and there are dangers to this. If you drain somebody or knock them down, well, you could inadvertently kill them. So, and it's the same thing with Dillman here, is that he can't be going around this knocks you down, this weakens you, but it's not demonstrated very well. And he should pick a healthy person. And of course, there should be medical people on hand that when these people are knocked down properly. Now, he does show this in certain areas, and we just don't know. Some of it, from the reaction of the people there, appear to me to be real. There is a certain loss of muscles that you fall in a particular way. Other ones, not necessarily. But, leg movements and other things doesn't necessarily mean that someone was not knocked out, because they're coming back. These things last for generally 5 to 10 seconds, and then the person starts to revitalize. They're not out all that time. So the whole idea is that just like chokeouts, which a martial artist should know about, is you're cutting off blood flow to the brain. You stop the brain from working, guess what happens? You fall down like a bag of potatoes. So here we go again. So you can only do that by strangling somebody, but you're not really strangling them. It's not cutting off air, you're cutting off the blood to the brain. And of course, if you disrupt the flow of blood to the brain, you're going to get some sort of effects. How dramatic it is, we don't know. The problem is nobody's really tested anybody worth a damn here. We just had Guy Savali, who demonstrated it with a Special Forces Green Beret team. Unequivocally, that's got to be 99% verifiable there. This is a Special Forces team. They came forward. They said what happened. It was filmed. What more do you want? So, I mean, trying to go past that is almost comical. But Guy Savali is dead. Somebody should have went to him with cameras and tested him with all this stuff and filmed it to prove him. From what I understand, he was tested in several places. And again, this is all hidden by the James Randi type of people who want to keep you stupid and dumb and on pills and not developing yourself and becoming a personal empowered person. Well, we're getting to the end of part 1 here. We'll stop now and pick it up in part 2.